This is an introduction to Composite Brush in Unreal. First, in Composure, right-click and create a new comp. You can create a Composite Brush compositing element. Right-click, add layer element, and choose a CG layer. This is your background. To get live footage going, right-click in the content window, go to Media, Media Player, check this box, press OK. Using this drop-down, select your live feed, minimize this. On the compositing element, you load your footage in here. This is a preset system we've created to try to make things a little faster for you. You can drag your media texture into this source. To pull a key, you need a Composite Brush asset. Choose it from this drop-down window. This asset contains the data for all the colors that need to be removed or modified or preserved. So now it's loaded into here. Double-click this. Choose your background to view inside of the asset. There are different presets, but let's just look at the layers. Everything in Composite Brush is based around these layers over here. When we create a new layer, we see layer 0. And you can bring this down to see all the options. When the layer is active, then you can add colors to the layer. So you click to select the colors that you want, and you alt-click and drag to select the colors that you don't want. So to pull a basic key, we'll set the transfer mode to Stencil Alpha, which is just how it's named in After Effects. Excuse the difference there, but we don't want to confuse people who are using both. And then when you go back to Composure, you'll notice that there's a key, however, there's no background. To add a background, the CG layer or whatever background has to be underneath your compositing element. And just type in the name. And that's set up. We also have blur and choke controls, so we can move in on this background slightly if we need to with the choke. We're losing a little bit in the hair. If you have an issue like that, then you can just go back into the asset and alt-click on those areas to preserve them. It's a little bit tough to see over this gray background. Okay, that's better. And then we can put on a slight blur here. So those are the basics to getting started. You may notice a little green spill in my glasses, so we can go back into the asset and take a look at how to get rid of that. You can disable a layer with the enable checkbox on each layer. And let's create a new layer. Again, click and drag to select the colors that you want to change. I'd go a little bit over the edges to make sure that you're getting any areas that might have spill on them. And then to undo that selection on the areas that you didn't want to select, just hold down Alt. And then click and drag over those areas. So we probably want to desaturate this. The HSV color transfer mode is good for that. We can set the saturation to 0. And the brightness to 0.5 to make it neutral. So that's pretty good spill suppression. And we can re-enable our key. We can also use a layer to do color modifications. So for example, if we wanted to change the color of this shirt, we can add a new layer. Also, before I move forward, I just want to point out the active layers. So right now, layer 2 is active. And this is the layer that your clicks and drags are contributing color selections to. If it ever looks like you're pulling a key when you're trying to do spill suppression, or it looks like you're working on the wrong layer, double check that you have the right active layer selected. To change the color of the shirt, I'll just click and drag over the shirt colors. And then Alt click and drag over my face and beard, and any of those colors that I don't want to select. And then I can tweak this color a little. Okay, good enough. You get the idea. These layers combine before rendering, so you can have dozens of them without taking a performance hit. So we just looked at our preset here, but what if you had more of a typical Composure setup where you're using a media plate and a CG element? Well, our plugin also covers transform passes too. On the media plate layer, you can add a Composite Brush transform pass. And here you attach the asset. So see, this is what I was talking about why this is a separate asset, so you can duplicate them and have different setups. So for example, this has a key, spill suppression, and the shirt transformation. So you can have as many of these as you want in your content folder. Also, I'm just going to brighten up the background a little bit here. You can add the choke as its own separate transform pass. And you can add a blur. Just for example's sake, I'll bring this way up. Now, one thing to point out, however, is we're using 3 instances of the blur in the preset, and that just smooths things out and makes the blur look a little bit less boxy. So if I wanted to do a 2-pixel blur, the way to do it would actually be to have this transform pass 3 times to get the same results as the preset, although typically 2 times looks pretty good. And of course, the benefit to setting it up this way is you can use other transform passes that are already built into Unreal. So for example, you could use their despill or any other tone mapping or any of that stuff that's not part of our preset. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. For more info, check out our website.